Good morning, everyone. It's very early here in Stony Plain, Alberta, and this is Cathie Allan. Yesterday, we did a Facebook Live at 7 p.m. It was segment 43 in this amazing series of instructional, gorgeous videos that Creative Scrapbooker has brought together for you. And could you tell that Jayme, myself, Cathie Allan, and my husband Brian were Facebook Live novices? Anyway, I thought I would take a few minutes this morning, probably about 20 minutes, and not focus on myself or Jayme, but on the project itself. Therefore, without further ado, let's show you, I'm going to show you what I did yesterday. So here we are, and I'm going to begin. Everything I do, remember, begins with white paper. I'm going to walk you through creating this card and these backgrounds that I used for many projects. So I created a tag from this project. Of course, finished it on both sides. This could get bigger and be a, whatchamacallit. Okay, this early in the morning, only had 1 cup of coffee, so bear with me. This could be in a scrapbook page. It could be a 12 by 12. Or guess what? This could also be in your art journal. I love my pigment inks for many reasons, and one of the most important reasons for me is the longevity, the light fastness, the way that this color holds up over time. We're going to toss stuff over here. I'll show you a few projects that have been done over the years. Here's a Christmas card that I made many, many, many years ago. And you can see I haven't opened this one for a long time, but look at how brilliant the color is in this project. Oh my gosh, this is my 23-year-old granddaughter. I think she's 10. So this one is 13 years old, hasn't lost an ounce of gorgeous color. Look at how white pigment ink stands up against dark colors. Look at the beautiful colors in this, all provided to you from Pigment Ink. Hey, Laura. Hey, Jackie. What are you doing up? You're supposed to be sleeping. I thought I'd sneak on here before any of you guys got up. Here's one that I made last year and has been sitting on my desk for a year in full light. It's a 12 by 12 scrapbook page, and because of the beauty of the colors, I haven't been able to put anything on it yet. So eventually I'll choose some photos and play with this one. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just take a piece of Canadian Scrapbooker Superstock. It is a paper that I absolutely love. I used to sell it in the store that I had with my family, and I just couldn't get past it. It's an amazing piece of cardstock that is 130 pound, good on both sides. What you do on one side doesn't affect the other side, and just has substance. So when you do a card or a tag and you give it to somebody, the beauty of it is that it feels like a gift. I'm using pigment ink, and notice that my pigment ink is in the old style, okay, coming from Colorbox. Let me just grab something. What I didn't know, and what Sukaniko put out after Colorbox closed their door, was their pigment ink always came from Sukaniko. Look at this. These are the same inks, just in different packaging. So if you have the Colorbox ink of old that's been around for like 25 years, okay, the re-inkers that you're missing for these, you can order from Sukaniko. As Jayme said last night, same mothership, same company, just different formats. So Pigment ink has a very long open time. I am going to work with one of my color blending brushes this morning. That doesn't mean that you can't use the good old stylus that used to be available from Clear Snap or Color Box. These are also, I think Sizzix has something called, I think it's called like an anything tool. And you can just apply any kind of applicator on it. And one of their tools is actually these sponges. I've seen them in many forms. Get the applicator that you like to use. I still use my foam tips. My new blending brushes, which I love, are not better than the foam tips. They apply ink differently. So it depends on the project and the technique that I do, that I choose my blending or my application. So you can see all I'm going to do is I am taking a piece of paper, blocking out part of the page and applying the pigment ink. It stays wet a long time, so that's why we choose it for embossing when we add embossing powders. I'm going to throw these on the floor because it's just easier to deal with that. And here's one of the pages that I started last night. When we were doing that was our very first Facebook Live. So it was lots of fun. But like I say, I know when I watched it afterwards, I thought, oh my gosh, they're seeing way too much of me and Jayme and not enough of the project. So here you go, up close and personal. I am showing you how I created, and Jayme created her jump offs from my project. So you can see, just using a piece of paper as a protector, I can create all kinds of patterns. A piece of paper can give you a plaid. A piece of paper can give you a gorgeous stripe. And all I'm doing is adding colors like this in segments. So we went from this, and here, of course, is the last one where I'm adding the final color. Now, these brushes that I'm using can be cleaned in between. Just get yourself a chamois and clean them on a damp chamois. They clean beautifully, but for the sake of this video, I'm just grabbing new blending brushes so that you guys don't have to watch me clean. There you go. Look at that. Boom. We have a background. Now, that is not to say that you need a piece of paper and it needs to be such definite regions. Hi guys, I can see you guys coming on, and I'll come back and I'll look at all your messages, but guess what? I'm going to focus on the project. Look at just a subtle difference where I've blocked out color, and here I've blended one into the other. Pigment ink blends like breathing. Think of it as the oil paint of stamping mediums. You can do so much with it. And one thing we didn't tell you last night was that if I want it to dry instantly, if I want it to be dry right now, I'm going to get out an iron. I'll see if I'm going to step away. See if I can bring that. Oops. Nope, my iron's plugged in, but trust me, I have an iron back there. It's just a small iron, and if I want it to dry right now, I will put a piece of paper over top my project, take an iron, don't need a special iron, one that's never going to see water, and simply iron it. Put a paper in between to keep your iron clean, and that is dry right now. Okay? I could watch you all day. No, Jackie, you'd need coffee. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on. Here we had the piece where I started adding images. Now, there's so many beautiful stamps out there. I have been having an awful lot of fun with this stamp set that comes from Impression Obsession. It is called Layered Pine Cones. You can use them individually or you can use them all together. Here I'm using this one here individually. I am going to take the darkest color on my palette. And you have choices here. There's always choices with pigment ink. So we're going to ink that stamp, and I'm going to stamp in groups. I like two groups of 3 on the page, so a group here, group here, group here. And you can think of that as individuals. I like to have odd numbers. Somebody a long, long time ago told me that odd numbers had much more eye appeal than even numbers, and I just said, okay, that works for me. Now this one here, you can leave these images as is, or guess what? You can pick up that blending brush. You can push it further into the background. Look what I can do. Choose the look that you want. Now this is a step I didn't show you last night. So I felt very pressured by although the half-hour's time space was wonderful to share with you, I felt so pressured by the time limit. A lot of the things that I could show you, I didn't, because of course feeling very pressured and being a Facebook Live version. So look at the choices I have. I have pristine images. I have images that I've pushed into the background. Guess what? They're lovely. And I'm whispering. Why am I whispering? Because my family's sleeping. My husband is sleeping upstairs, and my granddaughter is sleeping upstairs, and my dog is sleeping upstairs. So trying to get this done before everybody wakes up. So nobody talk. Okay, so here we have, all of these were pristine. This is my background that I started with. And you can see, when you do a card, consider this. This is fun for people when you're making something for very special and you want to give them a gift. Think of finishing it from the front to the inside. And look, I'm going to actually add another panel to the back when I'm later on. So this card has left card. It's going to be book. So think of your cards as an opportunity of 4 panels, not just the outside panel in here, but all 4. Tammy, I can see that you are answering some of the questions, and I am so grateful to you, because it's really hard. Like I can see some of the questions, but I can't. I'll come back and I'll get back to you guys later. So I'm going to put that aside. Because, well, no, I'm going to work on this one a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get just, you could get out, of course, here I've got a non-stick sheet. But honest to God, you could use the lid from your stamp pad. It doesn't really matter here what I'm about to do. And all I'm going to do is grab some white paint. There we go. Now, of course, you can go out and buy all kinds of fancy white paint. Guess what? I was a folk artist before I was a rubber stamper, and I've been a rubber stamper for almost 40 years. So this is pretty old. Like this, some of my, I'll show you a really old one. Oh my God. I do not think they make these anymore. Here's one called Gold. It's called Gleams. If you keep your lid sealed, and I store my acrylic paints upside down, these will last for years and years and years and years. So I'm just going to take a bit of acrylic paint. Here I'm going to choose white. Obviously, I can do it in a lid, or I can do it on, don't need anything fancy. You could do it on a piece of wax paper. Doesn't matter. Just get something that's got a bit of a slick surface. And I'm going to get a spray bottle with some water and a paintbrush. Okay. Oh, I can't find my spray bottle, so I'm actually just going to use some water from my paint lid and add some water in here just to water it down a bit. So just mix it in with a paintbrush. Don't forget to clean your stamp brush out well. Your paintbrush, not a stamp brush. Sorry, it's a paintbrush. There you go. And I'm going to grab a stamp. Now, I'm just going to have a lot of fun with this little snowflake stamp. I'm not going to go for precise images. It's background. This is not going to be the focus. So backgrounds are fun. Think of backgrounds. Okay, when I am talking to people about skincare, I tell them skincare is like art. You can always add another layer. When I'm talking to people about art, I can say art is like skincare. You can always add another layer. It just works, you guys. So you can just pick up that. I like to stamp off a couple, and I'm just going to go in there. I'm just going to check. And I'm just going to go in there. Oops. And I'm going to start adding a blizzard. So let's just add a blizzard. Notice how I did a group of 3. There's another group of 3. How about if we add an individual one here and here, because I want a blizzard. And I'm kind of focusing like this because I know that's where I'm going to be applying some images. And by bringing these images in to where I'm going to add my next image, the lantern, I'm going to bring focus on that. So that's all you're going to do. Don't let that paint dry on that stamp unless you want to kiss your stamp goodbye. This is going to go onto a stamp pad that is soaking wet. So it'll stay nice and wet till I get to clean it off this video. Okay, so what we can do is we're going to move this out of the way. There we go. There's a lot of people up there, up early. Good morning to everybody coming on. This is like a surprise video. So I added the white paint images to this, and here I've added some gold paint images to that in the same way that I added the white. So very simple, lots of fun. Do it as a 6x6. Do it as a slim size card. Do it in your art journal. Good morning, Susan. Do it as a 12x12. I don't care what size of paper. Do yourself a favor, get some Canadian Scrapbook or Superstock. I wish I could explain how good this paper feels in your hand. You're looking for 130-pound white matte cardstock that's smooth and good on both sides. Look at this. What you do on one side doesn't transfer to the other side, so it allows you to use both sides of that paper. So that's kind of fun. So this one's dry. You could leave it like this. It's always a choice. Or guess what? We can add another layer. So I'm just going to take one of my blending brushes and start off the paper and bring it in and just finish up those edges. So much fun to add that extra depth. And you know what? I'm just going to finish up 3 edges. I think I'm going to leave that side open. It's a choice, you guys. It's always a choice. Here's another choice that I love to do. I love to finish up edges. This is something you might want to practice. Get yourself a nice bullet tip pen. Why do I choose this pen? I'm always looking for adjectives. Look at this one. Acid-free, archival quality, pigment ink. Keep horizontal, blah, blah, blah. I guess that's a good one. But I'm also always looking for that pigment ink. Why? It's going to have the light fast quality that I want. Really, I never thought I'd be stamping for 40 years. I started this hobby, art, craft 40 years ago. Did not think I'd be doing it this long. It's become important for me. I'll talk about this one later, but this is something I like to make for my grandchildren. So you can see here, pigment ink. I've created this tag for little Max, our youngest grandson. And this goes on his present. It doesn't have to say to Max. We know it's for Max. It's got his photo on it. But next year, they'll tie that onto the tree. They look phenomenal tied onto the tree. And when I'm not here anymore, like, think about it, I'm 67. So at some point, I'm not going to be here. But this tag will still be here. Max is going to be 22, and he's going to be able to say to somebody, my grandma made that for me. That's why I love pigment ink, for so many reasons, but that's one of them. And I'm going to edge this. This is a nice bullet tip. And can you see how that finished up that edge? So I have practiced this. This I learned from the first lady of stamping. Her name was Dee Grunig. We're going back a long time. Amazing lady. She made me a tag. She took a gold pen and did this, and I almost fell on the floor. And I said, Dee, what did you just do? And she said, Cathie, go home, get a chisel tip pen or a bullet tip pen and practice. Practice on every piece of scrap paper you have. In the beginning, you're going to do stuff like this. So you practice on scrap paper, and eventually you get to feel the weight of that paper. And all it does is finish up that edge. So that's something else that I didn't show you last night. So I'm going to toss that one away. It's now down on the floor. And we're going to talk about where is the card? We'll talk about this piece here, okay? And I'm going to show you. Here I've already stamped this on. Oh, there's two of them stuck together. Oh my goodness, I've done this a few times. So I'm going to grab this. We're going to create this panel right here. I love window plastic. This particular one comes from Judykins. It's embossable window plastic. So if you're careful with your heat gun, you can actually, if you're careful with your heat gun, you can actually emboss on this. You will need one of those no-stick powders. I mean, everybody's got one, so it's a little powder, but you can emboss on this. But with this new style of Stays-On Pigment Ink, you probably won't need to. This is one of Sukaniko's newest stamp pads in the Stays-On line, and I'm in love. I'm in absolutely stamp heaven. It's giving me these crisp images on my acetate, and you can feel it. It's almost like it's embossed with ultra fine embossing powder. Does that make any sense to you guys? So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take my image, and I'm going to stamp on, and it is a cling stamp, and I'm actually going to screw this one up on purpose. I just want to add some ink. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to kind of screw this up, and we're going to actually pull it, slip it, and do it. There you go. Totally screwed it up. Perfect. But what I want you to realize is you don't have to panic. There is a product out there called Judykins Fabric Ink, Fabric Permanent Ink Cleaner. Used to sell it in the store. It's not just, it gets anything unwanted off a stamp. It's also a transfer ink. We used to do all kinds of crazy projects in my rubber stamp store. But it also is an eraser of Stays-On ink. You see that? That's the tornado. That is the tornado and that was Jayme last night. If you did not see the live last night, we had lots of fun. She is a beautiful friend, one that I have gained and earned through my love of rubber stamping. But look it just erases. This is just an old baby wipe. Look at that. Clean as a whistle. So you don't have to worry about screwing up your more expensive stuff, right? So this is beautiful. I know that background's getting busy. Let me see if I can find a clean sheet of paper here. That's one thing I didn't think of. Here you go. We'll start working on this. So there you go. I have taken this. I then cut it down to the size I needed. I have taken a piece of Zhukwang tape, and I always you'll hear me refer to Zhukwang tape often as Be Creative, because my girlfriend was one of the first ones that brought it into North America, and her store, of course, was called Be Creative, so I call it Be Creative. But I'm going to tell you, this tape will not fail you. I like tapes that have stability, that when I make a project and I want it to stay together, like this one here that I showed you earlier. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. This one was made years ago. I don't want it to fall apart over the years. It never does. Excuse me. But I don't want this to fall apart, and I know that this is stable and won't dry and release. So what I did, excuse me, I just got a tickle in my throat here. What I did was I took the Be Creative tape. I went all around the edges. You can go back to that first fun video. And then once I peeled away, I simply added glitter. But you know what? I can show you something right now. If I can find my Sharpies. Let me see. Oh, I can't find Sharpie. Okay. If you want to make that red even redder, guess what you can do? You can color on the backside. Take that and just go along the edge. Doot, 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 doot. See the intensity? Can you see the difference? When you add color in the backside and poke it up, so if you want your glitter to just stand out a little bit more, use something, a permanent marker. Love these brush markers. Okay, so love, love, love these brush markers. Now, on this card, which, okay, Cathie's been throwing everything around, I simply added another piece of Zookwang, hid it behind the glittered areas so it could be flat, right? So it's flat right on there. If you want to erase it and you're out of pop dots or anything else, I don't care what width. I think we got a 1/4 inch Zookwang here. Let's see. Can you guys, I'm going to push everything out of the way. I'm going to make a big mess. Hopefully you guys can see this. And I'm just going to, I have this desk mat. It's an old one from Staples. Don't ask me if it's still available, but I do love it because it saves my desk. I don't know why. It never leaves the desk anyway, but it saves the desk, I guess, for the next person that uses it. But it's a non-stick for my Zookwang. I really love this. But you roll this. Take your Zookwang and roll it into a rope adhesive. I've been doing this one for years. Let me see if I can grab a wider one. Okay. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Be Creative or Zookwang tape, it comes from like 1/8 of an inch to like 18 inches wide. It's crazy. It's wonderful. But it doesn't matter. Just grab a width, whichever one you're using. Flip up that, remove your release paper, and here's a trick. I'll show you one when you have fancy nails on your hand, like I do right now. Okay. I have never had fancy nails, but I have a 23-year-old living with me, and a very good friend of mine, Jackie, gave me some of these fun press-on nails, and this is the first time that I've ever used them, and I love them, but I find I'm a little bit incompetent with them. Can you see? There's the piece of Zookwang on my non-stick desk mask. Just roll it back. Can you see how you can have different thicknesses of your Zookwang? So you're creating 3D very flexible rope. That's the point here. So once it's flexible like that, now hopefully you can see this. Hopefully the camera can pick this up. Can you guys, I'm going to hold it. Can you see where I've hidden those ropes of adhesives behind the lines so you can't see it? Like lots of people struggle with adding vellum pieces. You can use a spray adhesive. Jayme likes that. But what if you want to 3D it? Roll it, hide it behind the detail. And then I'll just stick it on this one here. And it's going to lift that image from your background. Isn't that cool? So that's how we did the vellum. Oh, and on the vellum, let's talk about how I did that. Okay. This is, now remember guys, be gentle with me. Facebook Live novice standing right here in front of you. And of course I've got, if you saw my desk, you'd all have a wonderful morning giggle. I am going to take my vellum, and you have a couple, well, you have a number of choices. I could use that amazing Stays On white ink. And of course, these do have re-inkers. So you can re-ink them, right? So you get to re-ink these. These are beautiful stamp pads. They will, I hate to tell you, but they'll probably replace your old Stays On. Okay? Shh, don't tell them I told you so. This is a secret. It's Sunday morning. Only one coffee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my image. And this time, though, I could use that. But if I use my Classic Pigment Ink. Okay. Oh, obviously, I have a couple of white pigment ink stamp pads. Like, why not? And I'm going to try and find, I just had my stamp in my hand. Somebody trashed my desk and I wasn't looking. There we go. So I'm going to grab this big, beautiful stamp that, of course, came from Impression Obsession. I got a lot of Impression Obsession stamps in my collection. I love them. Go visit her website. You won't be disappointed. Or you can go talk to Sandy at Scrapbooking Fanatics, because she carries a lot of those and she's right in Canada. So I'm actually stamping with a Classic Pigment Ink. And what that Classic Pigment Ink, even if it's like, I can tell this stamp pad needs to be re-inked. There you go. And what I did was I embossed that image. I'm not going to do the embossing in front of you guys. Don't need to see that, I'm sure. There you go. Look at how it grabs and holds. It grabs and holds, and when you heat that, it becomes one with that paper. So you have your choices: StazOn Pigment Ink or Classic Pigment Ink. So you add embossing powder and heat set to dry. Guess what? Oh, Jayme's here. Jayme, good morning, good morning, good morning. Answer questions. Hey, Jayme. So anyway, you're going to heat that. If I didn't emboss that Classic Pigment Ink, it would never dry on this sealed surface. All papers are different. One paper isn't like the other. All paper is good, but you got to find the ink that works the best. And if it's a sealed piece of paper as vellum or your embossable window plastic or glossy paper, you're probably, if you use pigment ink, you're probably going to want to emboss it. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay, so we've got all that done. I'm going to push that aside. All right. And obviously what I've done is I've added color. And we're going to talk markers here for a minute. They all have their place. Let me grab a few. Okay, who else out there is a marker junkie? Like I got lots. Okay, so I have, oh, we're going to get some more. Okay, so what have I got here? These are the things you want to know about your markers. Don't just think it's a marker. Here we have a Tombow. Excellent dye-based marker. Lasts a long time. Why do I know that? This pen's probably 15 years old. Good capping system makes a good pen. It is dye-based ink, okay? So it is dye-based ink, so it will do certain things for me. It has its limitations, but it has its pluses. Here is writers. You can get these in brush. They are pigment ink. I love getting pigment ink, acid-free, archival quality, light fast, waterproof, fade-proof, non-bleeding. Who doesn't want a pen that says that? Find out what your pen is for. Look, I've got, okay, here, this is dating me. I have Daughter Rivix. These are really fun. I don't know if you can find these anymore. These are really fun. Okay, Copic, yes, alcohol, dye-based, beautiful pens. They are great for a lot of things, but find out their adjectives. Sharpie, a permanent marker. These are great pens. All you need to know is what can your pen do, what was it made for, and then use that information to create your projects. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So that's my theory on markers and the world of markers that we have out there. So I have actually colored on here. I'm going to put it on this side here. I have actually colored on here, and I think you guys can see that. There you go. So here what I did was I started coloring. I only stamped half the image, but notice this one's embossed, so it was stamped embossed. I started adding color from the back. Okay, vellum's cool, right? You can color from the back, details on the front. But when I started adding color to the front, look at how it started. I don't know if, hopefully you guys can see that. I'm going to bring it up. Can you guys see that? It started smearing, discoloring the white. So I went, that drives me crazy. Okay, it might be a little OCD. But look, this one was stamped with the StazOn pigment. Can you see that? Can you see the smear? Can you see the non-smear? Don't ask me why it doesn't smear or discolor much less than on the embossing. But this ink is pretty fine. Like back, front, cut out your image. I know that I fussy cutted, and some of you are going to look at the fussy cutting on that image and think she's a nutcase. But I do like to fussy cut. It's something that I use an X-Acto knife, and I love to fussy cut. I find it very calming. And look, I didn't all fussy cut. I created a corner. So if you hate fussy cutting, make your fussy cutting less. Ta-da! Okay, does that make sense? I wish I can see all your guys' messages here, and want to say hi to everybody, but like I'm going to focus. Look at me. I know Jackie's on here and Jayme's on here. Look at me. This is Cathie focusing. So there again, when you're doing this, you've got that image here. I've obviously just colored from behind. I've added everything. I put everything together with Zook Wang. I don't know if you can see, this piece, of course, is raised. Okay, because I use, and look at how solid that is. That's with the Zook Wang tape. Now, here's a hint. If your pigment ink is a bit dry, because it's going to have a much more open time. You want it to dry right away, you can quickly iron it, like I talked to you about earlier. But if it's not quite sticking, leave it for a day. That paper's going to dry, and that Zook Wang always sticks. But you can color your images. Maybe you don't have time. Just embossed or white images, can you see that? Are just fine. So if you're making 50 of these, don't color. All right. But you can also see what I'm going to do is that panel that, I don't know, Cathie threw somewhere. Now we'll grab one of these. As I said, you can finish up this card by doing all four sides. I don't know what child that will be for, but that will be for some. So anyway, we do have, I cut it out. Now I did exactly the same thing. Can you see that? On a tag. Didn't cut my paper up 6x6. Cut it as a tag. Cut two of them. Okay. Cut two of them and did both sides. So the recipient of this tag can then go and hang it on the tree. Karen Frobisher, I think you just said you could watercolor them. My issue, if you look for watercolors that have a good deal of pigment-based ink. Look for that light fastness. If you're just giving someone a card, you're not worried about what they're going to do with it, open territory, go crazy. If you're making something for, like I am, I'm making stuff for my grandchildren. I want those projects to still be here when I'm not here anymore. I look for mediums that are pigmented. Okay, I want that color to stay. So we did this one. Then, of course, look at what we did here. Now here I'm just showing you variations. Here I stamped in 3 colors of pigment ink. So what you've got here is antique pewter. You've got, I believe that one's stucco, and I believe this one's chestnut. And what I did was, in the beginning of the video, I stamped them and I smeared them. Okay, so I pushed this all to the background. And in that way, when I completed this, these pine cones that I want the focus on, that's what you're focusing on, because I've blurred these ones out. So smooshed or, spread out images are great. They have their place. So you can see I took that same idea, same stamp, different colors, created a scrapbook page. All right. And I'm going to show you, I did have, again, here is that stamped image, okay, done in 2 ways. Can you guys see this? I just learned how to do this right, so I don't know, we'll start at the top. Here I stamped in stucco. This one I stamped in chestnut. So you got pigment ink. Remember, pigment ink is happy to sit on top of the paper. Then we have, this has got 2 of the images. So the top one was just this image. Just this image. Now this second one, number 2, was this image and this image. So stamped with stucco, I added antique pewter on top of that. okay, stamped with chestnut, and I added stucco on top of that. Can you see how it changes it? Pigment ink, light colors can be stamped on dark colors when you got pigment ink, because it wants to sit on top. I don't know, my stamping mind goes crazy when I start realizing that I can work from dark to light, back to light again. So here, look, I added white, and I added this third image. This is a 5-layer pinecone stamp that when you use pigment ink and you work from light to dark or dark all the way to light, you get these fabulous, oh my gosh, look at these beautiful pinecone images. We'll put that on Marty's bald head. I love Marty, but Marty, Marty, I hope you're not watching this. I know you're sleeping. You don't watch stamp videos anyway. So anyway, look at how real this is. Now, don't worry. This is once, you know what, I love the companies that give us these detailed, oh, I'm sorry, there's a lot of glare there. But here's the die. Want to make 7,000 acorns? Go ahead. So easy to cut out. Beautiful die. And Impression Obsession does not lessen the quality. It's always fabulous quality. I did on this one, when I put this one together, there is a stamp here, and I noticed that people were asking where I got this one from. It's not Impression Obsession. It is a giant candy cane that I have from Unity, and I use it a lot. And you can tell that what I've done here is I have 3D'd it simply by adding Nouveau drops. These are the two that I used. So I used the Nouveau drop in the glitter. Let me see if I can find the name on this. Yeah, this one's called Glitter Drops. And this one's called Morning Dew. Some people are just using them as drops. They're lacquer. There's a history to lacquer. The first one that came out was Crystal Lacquer. Beautiful product. Added a little bit of dimension. Came out in colors. But it was a great product. But then Ranger came out with another one called Glossy Accents. Was it thicker? It held its line better. I needed something even thicker. Then Nouveau came out, and it's even more thick. Crystal Lacquer, lost the name of the other. Glossy Accents and Nouveau drops are similar but different and can be used in different ways. This is only one coat. I put clear on all the red areas, and after shading the white, I added the sparkle to there, giving this tag a very childlike, happy feel that's going to look gorgeous on my son's Christmas tree. So use your Nouveau drops as a drop. Use your Nouveau drops as a lacquer. It's all good. Have a lot of fun. The other thing I really liked about the Nouveau drops is they do dry fairly quickly. There is drying time, so don't try and do your clear and then move right to your glitter areas. Do areas that don't touch each other. Let them dry for an hour or so, and then do the areas in between, and you'll get more of a sculpted look. Does that help? So anyway, then Jayme went crazy. She took the same techniques, used different colors of pigment ink, and look at the beautiful card Jayme did for you. Same techniques, different stamps, added paint. Her vellum was applied, not raised, but she used a spray adhesive to apply that. There is her, acetate window. Okay, on this one, look, she turned that card. Can you see it? Hope you can see it. She turned that idea into a shaker card. So, and she gave me a very special card. Oh my gosh, here it is, you guys. She did this in front of me. I didn't even watch her. So here she stamped those images in pigment ink. She actually used metallics Metallics are best done in pigment, okay, because that's when you get, hopefully you guys can see how much sheen is in there. She used a beautiful set of metallic inks. She has done layers and layers of her Vine images, and she actually used some of Carrie Engel's beautiful handmade ribbon on there and gave it to me. So this is the projects that we shared with you, okay, last night, with much more focus on the projects themselves. Like I say, for those of you that sat through half an hour of looking at Jayme and I, by the way, I was the tall one. I might be not quite as tall as Jayme because of my consumption of coffee, but I'm good with that. But that is how you take pigment ink. Remember, it is light fast. I'm choosing it because it's not going to fade. Remember that if you use pigment ink on a sealed surface, you're going to have to emboss it. Okay? Remember that with pigment ink, you can work from dark color to light color, or light color to dark color. There are resist techniques you can do with pigment ink. I could talk to you guys all day about pigment ink and all the things it can do. It is a multitasking wizard of an ink that is a superwoman. Yes, all pigment inks are superwomen because they can do more than one thing. That is my Sunday morning. I hope you guys enjoyed this. From a Facebook Live novice who finally figured out that I could use my stand and the screen could face me so I could see what I was showing. I learned a lot last night. I hope you guys enjoyed Jayme and my love for the craft that we do. If you're looking for any of these products that I love that stand the test of time, please feel free to contact Sandy Hobbs at Scrapbooking Fanatics, and have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your day. Bye, everybody.